area, making the forest glow in the night. The light slowly faded away on a log, as a small blob started moving around. The slime, with its single eyeball, started looking around nervously, wondering where it was. All he could remember was scrolling through his phone last night, reading manga in his bed. Having unknowingly fallen asleep after that, realizing that he had suddenly died and come to another world after that. However, the slime did not care much about it. There were so many works with similar themes anyway, so everyone would accept the setting pretty quickly. For now, it was more important for him to confirm his surroundings and think about how to survive. Shouting out, he called to see if anyone was there besides him. Looking into the forest now lit up with red eyes, he realized that it was better to be quiet, noticing how there were bugs and miasma everywhere, but for some reason, he felt comfortable in this place. Breaking himself out of his delusion, as Slimy realized that now was not the time to enjoy this. Questioning what exactly he had reincarnated into, a notification window then popped up before him, showing that he was a level 1 slime mold, with even the system calling him a weak creature. Slimy was shocked that he had reincarnated as a slime mold of all things, but what's worse was that he was losing health as he spoke, and would die if he did not eat anything fast. Looking around, he wondered if there was something he could eat nearby, remembering that he had also seen his decomposer trait listed on the system window. He realized that slime molds were decomposers that could eat wood, thinking that he should try that first. Spreading his body on the wood, he was surprised by how slime molds ate. When he thought of the command, his body automatically wrapped around the target and started decomposing it. The taste of the wood was surprisingly acceptable to him, with it feeling like a soggy biscuit. After 15 minutes, he had eaten a huge chunk of the wooden log. Letting out a burp as he leveled up with his HP returning to full. The system informed him that he had gained 1 skill enhancement point. Looking at his window, Slimy recognized his decompose skill, but was confused by the pulsation skill. But he did not think much about it, choosing to put the point into the pulsation skill to see what it does. As the skill leveled up, Slimy's body started spreading around like webs, with each strand pulsating like blood vessels. He realized that pulsation made the protoplasm inside him flow back and forth, achieving the effect of displacement. It was a magical skill that, by activating, transmitted the knowledge automatically into his brain, although now he did not seem to have a brain anymore. Since eating up wood would not grant him any more experience points, he decided to go explore the ground, amazed at how he could magically change his body shape at will. Calling down the log, he saw a mushroom on the ground, thinking about how humans usually ended up in coffins if they ate random things, but as a slime mold, his instinct told him that it was a delicacy. Slowly making his way to the mushrooms, he found the shortest path and scooted over to it. Finally reaching the mushroom, he spread his body all over the fungus, climbing it with his tendrils. As he reached the top, Slimy declared happily that it was now time to eat. In a fancy suit, Slimy stood calling out to the pure little mushroom, saying how, after dating online for so long, they finally got to meet in reality. The little mushroom asked if it was really Slimy, as he assured her, trying to look handsome. But then the ugly little mushroom turned around, telling Slimy to come eat her, as Slimy realized that she was toxic, getting caught in the scam. The system informed him that he had been poisoned and was now losing health rapidly. Slimy panicked that he was about to die, detaching a part of himself as he threw himself away from the mushroom. His decomposition had failed, meaning he gained no experience points and had also lost body mass, lowering his max HP. But at least the poison effect was cleared. Slimy had been scared to death, but luckily, he had survived by cutting off his limb. Looking at the mushroom, he saw that a part of it had been decomposed by him too, disappointed that he couldn't eat all of it as he left. Telling it to wait as he would return after getting stronger to fight again, as he made his way back up the log. Settling into the crater he had made, he began eating it again. After 15 minutes, he had returned to his full health. With his HP revived, he crawled out again to look around, making his way through the ground using pulsation. He realized that as long as he could decompose a little bit of the mushroom each time, then disconnect and come back to eat the wood, he would be able to decompose the entire mushroom. Naming this project Move Mountain, he climbed back again on the mushroom. For as long as there was enough time, he believed that he could take it down. Returning to meet the toxic mushroom, she said how it was the 8th time already, asking if he was still planning on not giving up. But Slimy suddenly cuffed her, saying that she was now under arrest, shocking the mushroom. He had finally managed to cover the entire mushroom, successfully decomposing it as he gained experience and poison resistance from it. Looking at the new skill, he understood why the consumption had become more tolerable in the last few times. But he was still irritated that he had not leveled up, thinking how the mushroom should have given him a lot of experience points. However, this did not bother Slimy, as he was in a damp place which did not lack mushrooms, looking hungrily at his next targets. Slimy had eaten even more kinds of mushrooms, having leveled up after gaining experience. He had seen different mushrooms, such as the straw pipe, a safe and non-toxic one, as well as monk's cap mushroom, which was highly toxic, but had given him better poison resistance, happily eating them all to turn them into his nutrients. After eating a lot, he had finally hit the limit where he could no longer gain experience points from eating mushrooms, deciding that he will pack the rest to take home. These mushrooms on his body not only served as rations, but also protected him. He had learned this from watching animal shows as a kid, where crabs used sea anemones to drive away octopuses. Similarly, he could use poisonous mushrooms to scare away monsters that would want to eat him, thinking that he was a genius to have solved this safety issue. Just then, Slimy noticed something as the wind violently blew around him. He saw a group of wasps carrying around what looked like chunks of meat. Looking at the giant hornets, he wondered if the poison mushrooms could scare them away, praying that they wouldn't see him. But then a tongue suddenly shot up, grabbing onto a hornet, and a green frog ate the giant monster in a single bite. Slimy was now horrified to see this, as another predator had shown up. The hornets then started attacking the frog, as Slimy observed this from the sidelines, seeing them fight. The wasps quickly approached the frog who had eaten their friend, stabbing into him with their stinger and biting him. Although the giant hornet's individual strength couldn't compare to the frog's, the swarm made up for the gap with numbers. Slimy wondered if the monsters ended up hurting each other. Could he go and pick up some scraps? As logically speaking, the experience from decomposing monster corpses should be much higher than decomposing dead wood and mushrooms. But as the hornets were attacking the frog suddenly opened his mouth, activating his skill-empowered tongue as he caught all the hornets in one go, eating them all. Slimy was shocked to see this, but suddenly an even bigger shadow appeared above the green frog, with a giant snake leaping at the frog with its mouth open. Blood splattered everywhere as a gigantic bird stood in the swamp, with its tail being the snake that had just eaten the frog. The bird then noticed Slimy staring at him with its giant eye. Slimy offered the bird his mushrooms, hoping that she would let him go as he had given up struggling with this disastrous start. The bird took a look at the mushrooms, raising its head as it flapped its wings, picking up the wind. Slimy was almost blown away by this, losing 30 HP from the gust alone, but the bird had flown away. Night still covered the swamp forest. Having put away all of his mushrooms, Slimy sat on the dead tree log, shaking. He had realized that he was currently at the very bottom of the food chain. But fortunately, because he was at the bottom, the gap in the food chain level was too wide, so he did not end up on the monster bird's menu. Looking at his system window again, she thought how even leveling up 4 times in one night did not change the fact that he was a weak creature. He wondered how he could survive and rise up as a slime mold. But he was tired now, hoping that this was all a dream, and when he woke up, he would be back in his blanket. But the next day came as the sun shone upon the swamp forest, as a green slime dripping from a mushroom like an acid. As the green liquid fell on Slimy, it immediately reduced his HP. Jumping up in pain, the system informed him that he had gained a new skill called Burst, which allowed him to move the flow of the ectoplasm in his body in one direction, generating thrust. Slimy fell on the ground, looking around as he wondered what had just happened. He then spotted a snail walking up to his mushrooms, using its skill acid liquor to melt them away. As the acid fell on the mushroom, it immediately sizzled. With the snail eating the liquid mushroom that was left, Slimy shouted at the snail, catching its attention. It was bad enough that it had stolen his mushrooms without asking, but dripping his saliva on his face and nearly melting him was unforgivable. The snail, however, continued eating, letting out a small whimper. Slimy said that playing the victim was not going to help it as the snail stood near the mushroom, still whimpering. Slimy thought about how they were fellow sufferers wandering the world, just trying to get a bite to eat. Seeing how pitiful it looked, he wondered if he was being too unforgiving. He let out a sigh, telling the snail that he was not going to make things hard for him. There were plenty of mushrooms, so sharing a little with them did not matter to him. He told the snail to go on and eat as it let out a happy noise, getting back to eating. Looking at this situation, it reminded him of the common friendship born from a fight shown in manga trope. Slimy had started fantasizing about how he and the snail would party up, growing stronger together, with the probability of their survival rising. Going on adventures with the power of bonds to defeat the great demon king. To survive and become stronger in this world, companions were a necessary existence. He then moved towards the snail, saying how, since he was a low-level monster too, they should team up. They could look out for each other in the future, and he would make sure that the snail had enough mushrooms to eat. The snail looked at Slimy happily, but then suddenly leapt forward as he bit off a piece of his body, startling him. Seeing his HP drop, he thought about how it hurt a lot. Realizing that monsters in the other world did not care about feelings. In nature, there was only the simple relationship of eating or being eaten. He had been fooled by the snail's pitiful look, and although they were both low-level monsters, it seemed its strength was above his. Thinking that while he was eating, he should quickly leave. The snail then got up, looking at Slimy. Seeing it come after him, he realized that the snail did not plan on letting him go. Slimy decided that he would use his remaining skill points too, increasing the level of his pulsation skill. With full power, he rushed forward as the two crawled on the dead tree, managing to cover only a small distance in 3 minutes. The snail was still behind him, making Slimy panic at how its speed was just as fast as his. The snail then suddenly raised its head as its throat started swelling. With force, it poured out its acid liquor, splashing Slimy with it as he lost a lot of HP. Seeing his body split apart from the middle, he wondered if his consciousness automatically stayed in the larger half. But now was not the time to focus on that question, as he saw the snail towering above him with its mouth now open, dripping acid. The snail dove headfirst into Slimy's body, eating it. But the half in which Slimy's mind was had managed to get away, thinking how he would endure this ruthless snail, as it was never too late for a mold to take revenge. Having finished eating Slimy's body, the snail got back up again, focusing on Slimy once more. But he had managed to get hold of one of the mushrooms, and as the snail came to attack him again, Slimy shoved the mushroom into its mouth using his burst skill. Eating the toxic mushroom poisoned the snail, as it started wailing around in pain, before falling dead beside Slimy. The system notified him that he had defeated the snail and gained enough points to level up. Slimy was relieved that this had worked, having noticed before that even while having so many teeth, the snail always spat acid on the mushrooms to dissolve them before eating, as it did not have poison resistance itself. In any case, he had successfully defeated the first monster he had encountered after arriving in this world. Poking at the slime, he wondered what surprises awaited him when he would decompose the monster. Crawling onto its body, he thought how the snail's meat was sticky and disgusting. Trying to push these thoughts away, as snail meat was still meat, thinking about treating it like French food as he began decomposing it. But as soon as he started, a disgusting taste filled his mouth as he wondered what had just happened. It was absolutely awful, tasting salty and sour at the same time, reminding him of thick snot. A system window popped up, informing him that the decomposition had been terminated, so no experience point was gained. He did not want to just throw it away like that, as it would be such a waste. After all, this was a victory he had won at the risk of his life. If he did not make himself stronger as soon as possible, everything else would be meaningless. Reality no longer allowed him to be picky. It was either dying or enduring this. So he would just pinch his nose and swallow it down, activating his decompose skill back again, as the area was filled with the sounds of vomiting. Slimy had finally managed to eat it all, throwing the snail's shell away as he leveled up from having eaten it. The system was saying that he had been restored to his optimal condition, but after eating, he was feeling even worse than before. Looking at all the skills he had unlocked, Slimy was angry that he had not unlocked even a single offensive skill yet. But complaining was useless, as he could do nothing but be a slime mold. Besides, he was still not strong enough. thinking about how even if he had attack skills, he wouldn't dare to provoke the other monsters. It was the only way he could comfort himself in this situation. He then decided that he would continue to upgrade Pulsation, putting more points in it. Without further delay, he wanted to test how much faster he had become. Moving around, he was easily able to cover a distance of 20 centimeters in a single second, thinking how he had indeed become faster. But it was still only 0.7 kilometers per hour, crying at how weak he was. A week had passed as Slimy left another dead tree he had eaten. Although this way of hiding had been uneventful, it had greatly helped him save up, having leveled up twice in the past week. Now that he had figured out the physical characteristics of a slime mold, it was time for him to find a new base. Dropping down to the ground, he decided that he would resupply one last time before setting off. Activating his pulsation skill, he started searching around the area. By flattening his body and dispersing it into veins, it was possible for him to traverse multiple directions all at once. And the higher his HP was, the more ectoplasm he had, giving him a wider range of exploration. Spreading his veins, he was able to cover quite a large area of the ground, finding white mushrooms and little mushrooms that he could eat. Now that he had mastered controlling his body, he could store things inside it or explore and decompose them simultaneously, greatly increasing his efficiency. He continued to eat mushrooms, but then suddenly ran into another snail, which he could not decompose. Feeling a jolt of pain from one of his tentacles, he brought it back, realizing that it was another snail by looking at his melted body. A stream of acid then appeared before him, startling Slimy, but fortunately, the speed of his body had increased as he narrowly avoided the attack. With the snail rushing at him, Slimy wondered if different snails had different skills, as this one seemed to move much faster than the last one. However, it could no longer kill him. The snail splashed Slimy again with acid, greatly damaging him. Looking at his body, the snail wondered if it had won, moving closer to his prey. But suddenly a tentacle appeared before him, shoving a poison mushroom into its mouth. Slimy had let it hit him on purpose. After all, once you knew its weakness, taking it down was a piece of cake. That was the difference in their intelligence. The snail had been poisoned, dying quickly as it was decomposed and absorbed. No matter what, Slimy still could not bear the experience of decomposing snails. But he needed to keep moving forward. Noticing a distant shadow, he assumed that it was another snail, telling it to come out. But Slimy was shocked to see that it was actually a knife-footed centipede. The centipede loomed over Slimy with its giant body, and seeing its pointy feet move around, he was terrified. The centipede then lunged at Slimy as he took out more poison mushrooms, trying to scare it away. But to his horror, the centipede cut through his mushrooms with its sharp pincers. As it dawned on Slimy that this trick did not work on it, the centipede caught Slimy with its skill myriapod blade strangle, biting into his body. But to its shock, he began getting absorbed into the slime mold's body. Slimy wondered how this must be a kind of compatibility, as the slime mold's body was immune to attacks from a sharp blade. This was a pleasant surprise, as he could now get experience points delivered right to his doorstep, decomposing the centipede within his body as it struggled. He then began hunting other bugs, even going as far as to try eating a hornet, but unfortunately, he could not reach it. Meanwhile, looking at a cockroach, he just gave up. Happily making his way through the forest, he enjoyed eating everything. Having found a new place in the food chain, he was now leveling up even faster. Thinking about how the slime mold was actually a good body, he happily continued eating. Slimy had now leveled up in the food chain, thinking that it was time to change the menu, as he wanted to try the giant frog's leg. If he were able to get through the toughest early stages, then the process of going to the top would be like a snowball rolling downhill. His body's growth would be unstoppable, and his domination of this world was just around the corner, laughing as he sat on the mountain of monster bodies. Just then, he was surprised to find that there was another pond in the area. Reaching over to it, he thought about how the swamp was filled with ponds. Wondering if there were more resources in the water, and if he should go and explore it. Deciding to give it a try, he slowly lowered his body into the pond. But suddenly his body started swelling up, feeling like it was about to explode. He realized that this was due to the osmosis effect, making his body swell as it absorbed the water. He was a single-celled organism now, so naturally, he needed to be careful of it. Pulling his body back it seemed that he would need to put his plan to explore the waters on hold for now. But then, to his surprise, a monster rose from the pond, making Slimy question if it was some kind of crab from its appearance. Taking a good look at the crab, he was reminded of the crab dishes he had loved in his old world. Springy crab claws and delicious crab meat, it was how normal food should be. After eating so many bugs, he could finally treat himself properly. With that, he decided to call the crab over to him, telling it that he wanted to be friends. But the crab just climbed over a nearby rock, spewing out more bubbles as it looked at Slimy suspiciously. Slimy realized that the crab would not fall for his trick, deciding that he was not going to waste his time on it, as it was not worth risking his life to wade through water for a bite to eat. He could always just get the crab in another way, like breaking down the poisonous mushrooms into a juice and pouring it into the water. But, to his surprise, the crab used its skill bubble barrage to attack Slimy with a jet of water, shooting it through him. Slimy was confused to see it use a water gun, looking at the hole in its body. The crab then started shooting again as Slimy rushed to get away from it, hiding behind a tree to save himself. The crab's water gun attack could actually hurt him, thinking how it was a level above the bugs he had encountered before. Going out now would immediately make him its target, so he needed to wait and see who had more patience among them. Seeing the crab jump back into the water, he wondered if it had given up. But the crab crawled out on the ground, making its way towards Slimy with its claws raised. The crab dashed around with incredible speed, shocking Slimy. As he quickly climbed a tree, he realized that it really intended to eat him up. He had gone from hunter to prey in an instant. Once he was up the tree, he would keep his distance and use the tree trunk to circle around it so that he wouldn't need to worry about its water gun. Just then, he noticed a spider on the tree, telling it to get out of his way as he was busy right now. Seeing the spider not move, he advised it not to be ungrateful, threatening that he had eaten plenty of bugs like it. But the spider did not listen, standing before Slimy as it attacked him with its arachnid slash, chopping off his body. Slimy was stunned, thinking how he was supposed to be immune to slash attacks. But the spider was a higher level than him, as it began eating his body. Slimy was then surprised by another water gun attack, as he saw that the crab had caught up to him. This was truly his bad luck, as he had been surrounded by the monsters, thinking about how he had been driven into a dead end again. Just as the crab used its water gun attack again, Slimy moved his body out of its way as the attack hit the spider, cutting off one of its legs. The spider was shocked to see this, as it jumped off the tree to attack the crab that had caused this. It attacked the crab with its arachnid silk shot, grabbing it with its web before slashing its body. But the crab tanked the attack with its crustacean shell, attacking the spider with its claw as it got caught up in more webs. The crab's claw was now stuck. Slimy watched this all from the tree trunk. His plan to make the monsters attack each other had succeeded. The crab then broke through the web with its bubbles, watching as the spider attacked, aiming for its eye, but the crab managed to block the attack. Having broken the spider's leg in the process, he proceeded to smash its head with its claw. But the spider had managed to jump out of the way to avoid the attack, surprising the crab. It then quickly started running around the crab, covering it with its web from all sides. The spider finally stood atop the crab, having trapped it. Slimy was shocked to see that the spider had managed to turn the tables. But as the spider finally approached to finish off its prey, the crab suddenly started shooting its water gun, cutting through a tree in the process as it wildly jumped around using the force of its attack. The spider had been cut into pieces, having been caught in the attack. But the crab continued to shoot its water gun, as Slimy tried his best to avoid it, realizing that the crab's survival instinct had been triggered. The crab then finally ran out of water, lying down with its eyes dried up. Peeking from behind a tree, Slimy wondered if it was finally over. He then slowly crawled over to the dead monsters, saying how he had warned the crab not to shoot everywhere, calling out how weak he was now. But now Slimy wondered how he should end this. Covering the crab's mouth would be like handing himself over to be eaten, and if he used a poison mushroom, it would just close its mouth, and he could not pry it open. If he did not deal with it quickly, it would be even harder once the crab recovered. Looking around, he then noticed a rock lying nearby. First, he needed to store the rock in his slime mold inventory. But the system notified him that he did not have enough space, realizing that the size of his inventory was decided by the size of his body, and he had just lost a huge chunk of it. Throwing away all the mushrooms that he had stored in his body, he was finally able to store the stone. But suddenly his body became heavier. Still, he needed to make his way to the top of the tree. Reaching the top, he called out to the crab, saying that he was here to collect his debt. The crab looks up to find Slimy jumping down at him with the rock. In a panic, the crab tried to stop him with its water gun, but it was too weak to do anything. He looked in horror as the rock slammed down on him. Slimy had finally won this three-way battle, having leveled up after defeating the crab. Happy that it was now time to eat. Making his way back to his dead tree log, he had prepared the crab to eat it, dipping it in a sauce he had made as he took a bite. The flavor burst in his mouth, filling him with joy. Before, he had to eat things like moldy biscuit-like wood and snails that tasted like snot. Finally, for the first time since his reincarnation, he had tasted delicious food. The food had truly healed his wounded heart, and he decided that he must survive in this strange world because there were bound to be many more delicious foods he could eat. Thinking about how he should change the direction to a food-themed manga, he then dove in, thanking nature for this food, as he decomposed the entire crab. His belly was now full, as he sat happily. Now that he was energized, he could continue his adventure as he made his way through the swamp forest once again. But suddenly his stomach started hurting. He was unable to bear the pain, as his body started swelling up, questioning what was happening as he tried to push out whatever was hurting him. Just then, he remembered the crab's water gun attack, realizing that his body had also absorbed the water gun attack for itself. But the water was hurting inside his body as he tried pushing it out with force, with a small part of his body weakly shooting out from behind. This was not how he had wanted the skill to work, so he tried using it again. But no matter what, only weak spurts came out. Even after holding it in until his body was stressed, he couldn't control the direction in which it came out. Moreover, what did come out had absolutely no power whatsoever. Thinking about how outrageous this was, he puffed his body again, throwing out a shot once more, but this time with his burst skill activated. The slime shot through like a bullet, creating a hole in the crab's shell. He had finally attained a new skill called ectoplasm ejection, being happy at how he could evolve his skills. He then remembered how the burst skill had a 5-minute cooldown before, wondering if it was gone. He tested it out by shooting multiple shots at the shell, realizing that his skills did not need to cool down anymore. His ectoplasm ejection also leveled up from the repeated use. He had gained an amazing skill, but the price was that every shot cost him his HP, as he stood there dried out. He had roughly figured out the rules of his skills, understanding that, as a slime mold, he had no magic, so the ectoplasm in his body was the source of his attacks. All of his skills could only be developed around the properties of the slime mold itself, which meant that he would be out of luck when it came to magic and similar techniques. It was a little disappointing, but the only way forward now was to break down and absorb more nutrients to grow properly, as he ate the spider too, not liking its taste. Just then, a thought hit him, for if slime molds grew by eating solid food, what would happen if they ate their own bodies? Moving over to where the battle had taken place, he found a piece of his body that had been cut off when he was fighting the spider. Slimy then tried to reabsorb the part of his body, but suddenly, a sensation shot up his body as his mind was filled with new memories that he did not have before. Slimy finally understood what had happened. Although a severed body had no independent consciousness, it could still decompose things on its own. And when he reabsorbed it, he was able to gain experience points and HP that the part had collected. Thinking that he had found a bug in the system, if he divided his body into several parts to work and then brought them back together after a certain period of time, he could essentially turn his one mouth into many. If that were the case, his upgrade efficiency would greatly increase. He then divided a small part of his body to test this out. But seeing it instantly shrivel up, he understood that the clones would enter a state of self-decomposition if their health fell below 30 points. With his maximum health, which was just around 200, he could split up into only so many parts, but then he remembered that as long as he had enough food, he could create as many clones as he wanted. With that, he spat out a bigger chunk of himself, successfully creating a clone. With the clone, he would decompose the spider meat and restore it to his optimal state. After all, safety was his priority when hunting. After becoming more familiar with his slime mold body, he was now feeling incredibly strong. He had basic stabbing and slashing immunity and was now basically immune to advanced slashes as well. It was fair to say that even the most powerful physical attacks were unlikely to pose a fatal threat to him. But the only worry now was magical attacks. But he had not encountered magic yet, wondering if his circle was too small or if this world was just a different version of the animal kingdom. Diving through the pond, he had finally tried making his way through water. But Slimy was suddenly caught by a crab as it began eating him. Looking away, many such crabs had caught small pieces of Slimy, leaving behind a trail of both his body and crabs that were eating it. However, the original Slimy had managed to sneak past them, decomposing a tree where the crabs were eating. Suddenly, the crabs heard a weird noise, looking back only to see that Slimy had caused a tree to fall, aiming it towards them as the trunk came crashing down, smashing the crabs. He had managed to defeat 6 crabs at once, gaining all of their experience points and leveling up. Having eaten all of them, he spat out their shells. Placing one of the shells on a nearby rock, he used it for target practice, firing a barrage of slime bullets at it. The shell was filled with holes as his ectoplasm ejection skill leveled up once again. After 2 days of quiet practice, the power and accuracy of his moves had improved. His maximum burst now was 30 shots, thinking about what he could do to become even stronger. Just then, an idea hit him as he decided to add some spice to his moves, picking up some poison mushrooms. If he launched a shot along with a poisonous mushroom, he could remotely poison the target. Similarly, launching a shot with a stone increased physical damage, breaking apart a chunk of the shell at once. Thinking about how he was a genius for having come up with this. A sound then caught his attention as he turned around to see that it was coming from a tree hole, noticing glowing particles coming from it. Climbing up the tree, he was excited to see what it was, only to be shocked to see what looked like a ghost owl. He immediately started running away, realizing that he had finally found a magic monster, thinking how he needed to leave quickly. But the owl had already spotted him, as it activated a skill called symbiotic scrying. From far away, a pink-haired girl looked on curiously with her hand around her eye. Her teammates asked if she had found anything, as she said that it was nothing but a strange monster. The adventurers were making their way through the forest, thinking how it was strange that they had not encountered a single high-level monster on the way. The girl told her pet to smell carefully and lead them out of there, as their magic communications had been cut, so they couldn't reach out to the guildmaster. Meanwhile, Slimy was running away from the owl, thinking about how it had spotted him. He absolutely could not fight it, so the only option was to flee, wondering where it would be safe to go. Looking at the pond, he thought that if he could cross to the other side, he could hide there and be safe. But the real problem was how he was going to cross it. Using his burst skill, he jumped over the pond with full force, and as he was halfway across, he used his slime barrage to shoot off and gain more momentum, landing on the other side. He then continued running, hiding deeper within the forest as he finally reached a tree, thinking if it was safe now. He had been scared to death, gathering some twigs as he needed to eat and replenish his strength first. He was now able to face monsters of the same rank with his slime body, but facing a monster of a higher rank would likely lead to him being easily defeated. Just then, he felt something coming up behind him as shivers ran down his non-existent spine. He wondered if he was still being chased, as this oppressive feeling was even worse than when he had faced the snake crane. Questioning just what the origin of that owl is. Looking out into the distance, he realized that it was not the owl. A giant finger with golden energy coming out of it came crashing in near him, with Slimy looking over at the severed claw. He had been blessed with this golden finger, with his intuition telling him that if he could break down and absorb this high-level magical beast's finger, then not only would he instantly level up several times, but might even evolve because of it. With that, he began climbing the giant claw, activating his decompose skill as he covered the claw with his slime. However, his body started reacting to the finger, swelling up painfully as he tried to absorb it. The system informed him that the decomposition had failed, as his skill was too low compared to the target he was trying to dissolve, and now his cells were being attacked. Slimy began to take damage just by standing on it. He immediately cut off the infected part and removed himself, landing on a nearby log. His decomposed skill was too low-leveled, regretting that he had not used his points on it as he ate the dead tree to recover. Having a top-tier material in front of him while being unable to break it down made him feel irritated. The target was also way too big, so he could not store it in his slime mold body and take it with him even if he wanted to. The only way left for him was to continue upgrading and max out his decomposed skill, and then come back and try again. But then suddenly he felt the ground rumble, wondering if it was an earthquake. The ground beneath the finger started sinking, and a hole appeared below it, with the claw and logs falling into the hole. As Slimy was about to fall, he cut off his body once again, shooting off to a nearby tree to save himself. But that tree was also being dragged into the ground, making sure that he couldn't get away. And as the earth filled the hole, it began closing itself. Slimy had barely managed to avoid it by crawling off into the opposite direction. He had been scared to death by this outside world, almost crying. The further he went, the more insignificant he felt. He could no longer be arrogant, with hiding away and developing his skills being his only way out. However, deep inside the underground, beneath mole nests and buried treasures, the golden finger lay in a hole. Suddenly, giant teeth appeared all around it, as a monster ate the finger in a single bite. Slimy had now come far away from the owl and the finger, making his way deep into the forest. Finally reaching a good spot, he decided to make it his temporary base, thinking that he would go and reabsorb his clone tomorrow. Climbing on a tree, he started breaking it down with decomposition, making a hole in it as he entered the tree to make the inside bigger while keeping the entrance small so that larger monsters could not get in. With that, he began the construction, carving away at the tree using his decomposed skill. After he was done, he planted some glowing mushrooms inside before resting on a bed he had made from moss. Now his temporary base was complete, stashed with mushrooms, meat, and wood for snacks. He had cleverly made it so that the entrance would only lead to a fake space below his actual base, which only he could enter through a narrow link channel. Picking up a crab leg, he began eating it with a newfound sense of security. But then, suddenly, a buzzing noise filled the area, irritating him. He peeked out to see what the racket was all about, only to find a swarm of hornets passing through, making it sound like a fighter jet. Looking at them, he had an idea, as he shot at them with a rock-filled slime bullet, tearing a hornet's body apart. With this, he had found a new way to gain experience, teasing the hornets. The hornets then swarmed his hole, ready to attack with their stingers. But Slimy quickly went in, as the hornets followed after him, getting inside the hole. But Slimy's plan had been successful as he trapped all the hornets inside his body, killing them. He then noticed that some of the hornets were running away, so he decided to follow them, finding the hornet's nest. Their lair had now been discovered. A few hornets then appeared before Slimy, confusing him as suddenly he was being chased by the entire hive coming to attack him. But Slimy stood his ground, saying the hornets' attacks were useless against him as he got ready for the fight. But the hive had completely covered him, suffocating him beneath their bodies. And because they were all stacked on top of each other, this caused the heat to rise in the center as the system informed Slimy that his cells were dying from the extreme heat, making him panic as he started losing HP. Using his slime barrage, he shot apart from their trap, sending the dead hornets flying. But a bigger hornet suddenly appeared, using its beeswax shield to stop the slime bullet, throwing it back at Slimy. Slimy realized that the forces near the lair were far stronger than those he had faced outside. Another stronger hornet then appeared as they plucked out their own stinger. Using the stinger as a wand, they activated their skill, Swarm Summon, to call on even more warrior hornets. As they all surrounded Slimy to attack him, Slimy was shocked to see a hornet mage, questioning if it was an evolved form that could use magic. The hornet mage looked at him, ordering the warriors to attack, as the group charged at Slimy. But he was ready, preparing his slime barrage as he shot out multiple bullets, taking down the hornets. The swarm was too large, and each shot consumed his ectoplasm. But fortunately, he had placed a clone inside the tree, which was decomposing the wood and feeding him with nutrients, replenishing his health. The hornets then started using the beeswax shield to stop Slimy's bullets, irritating him. He could use stones to enhance his bullets, but he only had one stone left in his inventory. As he was focused on the shield hornet, two more warriors came from behind to attack him, trying to stab Slimy with their stingers. But it was unsuccessful, as he absorbed them with his body, thanking them for delivering themselves. Consuming the warrior hornets, he was able to break them down, gaining their stingers. And with that, he enhanced a slime bullet, shooting it right through the shield and the hornet behind it. The hornet mage was stunned to see this, telling the warriors to fall back and stop attacking Slimy, but he stood proud, asking if the hornets were retreating now, being scared of him. However, the mage had different plans. As he began moving his wand again, the wasp mage started casting a spell as honey started gathering on its wand. Seeing the honey, Slimy really wanted to taste it. But the honey was suddenly set on fire with the spark ember spell as the wasp mage fired it at Slimy. Slimy was hit with the fireball, taking a huge chunk of damage. The wasp mage kept firing more honey fireballs, sending him into a panic as fire magic completely countered his slimy body. Plus, the splash effect of the honey made it stick to him. He could not beat them like this, so he had to run. Slimy began to flee, dodging the fireballs, while he kept firing plasma barrage bullets at the wasps. But the bullets were blocked by the wasps with their twin beeswax barrier. Slimy was surprised to see that the barrier could be buffed up, calling it unfair as the attacks continued. The wasp mage then used the swarm summon spell again, but this time it summoned self-destruct bees. The bees immediately headed towards the tree where Slimy was, exploding on contact as they sent Slimy's body flying away. The body then landed on another tree branch, which was immediately noticed by the wasp mage, who sent some warrior wasps to break it, making the slime fall below into a giant swarm of wasps. Charging another giant honey fireball, the wasp mage threw it at the slime, along with all of the self-destruct bees, surrounding him in an attack that he could not escape. And as the fireball made contact, the entire area exploded with a giant bang, shaking the forest. The wasps stood there and looked at the aftermath, as they saw pieces of burnt tree bark and slime scattered everywhere, content that it had defeated the enemy. The wasp mage then sent all of the soldiers back to their spots, now that the threat was gone. But then it noticed something, as it saw Slimy rushing towards the nest for a sneak attack. The wasps from the nest started attacking him, but they could not do anything to his slimy body. It was too late, as the main forces were all outside, and just a few of them could not stop him. From the very start, besides burrowing his body into the tree trunk to decompose and replenish, he was also constantly extending, secretly creating a passage for their nest. When he was forced behind the trunk by the wasps, he used most of his HP to create a split body to draw away their attention, and sure enough, they immediately focused on the spilt body. And he took that opportunity to move through the passage to their nest here. As Slimy finally reached the nest, he immediately stretched his tendrils, activating his search ability. Looking through the structure of the wasp's nest, he went around in every room, searching for the place where honey was stored. But there was something else he needed to find as well, deciding to come back for the honey later. He then finally found the queen bee's lair, seeing her eating some meat. The other bees immediately headed towards the queen, and seeing Slimy, they all got enraged. Slimy told them not to move, as their queen was in his hands right now, threatening them with a rock. The queen screamed in pain as Slimy coiled around her. The mage immediately sent the warriors to attack Slimy. But as they were headed towards him, he was disappointed that there was no room for negotiation, tearing apart the queen's head as he crushed her body. The mage wasp was devastated to see this, as the entire hive started falling. Slimy was surprised to see that the queen bee was equivalent to a host machine. As long as he killed her, the entire swarm would naturally collapse and disintegrate. Originally, he had thought about negotiating with them, but it seems that even with a social structure, low-level monsters still only follow their instincts. The system informed Slimy that he had reached level-up requirements. It also notified that decomposing bee parts within 24 hours will no longer grant him experience points, and that his HP exceeding his maximum points will be cleared after 1 hour. He had now leveled up to level 21. This decomposition had not only boosted his poison resistance significantly, but he had also unexpectedly gained a new skill called Central Command. However, when he tried adding a skill point to it, nothing happened as it informed him that he did not have enough subordinates to command. He had originally wanted to max out his decomposition skill to prepare for scavenging bodies, but he had not expected that racial skills could not be upgraded with points, so he had to max out pulsation first instead. Fortunately, the haul this time was plentiful. As his HP increased, the slime mold space inside his body expanded as well, and the honey he had collected was a treasure. But looking back at the destroyed hive, he wondered why he had such mixed feelings even though he no longer had a heart. Starting with turning the tables on the snail, he officially began his path of predation. But something didn't feel right. He then began imagining how the crab's child must be waiting for him, wondering why he had not come back yet to play with him as he had promised. The crab had told his wife that he would be late as he was going to take care of some clients, asking her to explain this to the baby crab since he couldn't play with him. His mom told him that his dad was working hard for them, asking him to be patient. But then a long time passed, as even mommy crab started getting concerned. It had been so late, and her husband had not given them even a phone call, wondering if he had passed out drunk somewhere. He then told baby crab that they would need to go out and look for him. On the road, the baby crab was singing his favorite anime song, but his mother told him to keep it down as he would disturb the neighbors. They then noticed a man walking towards them shabbily, as the baby crab immediately recognized him as his father. He started calling out to his dad, asking why he was walking in the wrong direction. His mother said that he was definitely drunk, telling her son to go help out his dad. The son happily agreed as he ran off to his father. But what he saw when the crab suddenly turned back was that he had been turned into a zombie by a slime monster that had taken over his body, eating him from the inside. A scream could be heard throughout the forest as the slime thought that he had become the villain. But then he snapped back to reality, realizing that he was overthinking it, probably because his mental foundation was still human, so he felt guilty. But now that he was a slime mold in this isekai, he had no control. If he were not the hunter, he would become the prey. The weak were meat for the strong. Survival of the fittest, that was the law of nature. To survive in this isekai, hunting and decomposition were his only real choices. Material foundation determined the superstructure, so he decided to solve the survival problem first. For that, he will have to go reclaim the split body that he had released this morning, wondering what surprises there would be this time. He rushed off to his destination, but as he was about to reach there, he was confused to see a campfire. Slowing down, he crept up to see if it could be humans, hiding behind some bushes to take a look. The hunter's party was lying around the campfire as the man asked Nia if she wasn't afraid of poking herself by leaning against that pig. Slimy was surprised to see that it really was humans. Nia replied, saying that in a relaxed state, the steelback's bristles were very soft, thanking it for its hard work today, as they would be counting on it again tomorrow. Carter said that they had originally thought to search for the guildmaster's whereabouts, but unexpectedly ended up getting lost themselves. So as a captain, he could not help but blame himself, apologizing to his teammates. Cole said that the magic communication was cut off, yet there was no sign of high-level magical beasts, and even the forest seemed to have turned into a maze. No one could have predicted that so many strange phenomena would occur at once, telling Carter not to blame himself. Although they hadn't found the guildmaster yet, there was no need to worry too much. After all, the guildmaster was ranked in the top 3 in strength among the leaders of the 8 great guilds, so once they find the way back tomorrow, they will just have to report this situation to the church. Carter said that the guildmaster's strength was unquestionable, but he had been out of contact for 2 whole years. There were rumors on the streets that their guildmaster had incurred the suspicion of the church. Coincidentally, their guildmaster only came here after accepting a mission personally assigned by the Pope. 10 years ago, Guildmaster Gon founded the 100-Style Guild. Unlike the strict entry requirements of the other guilds, the 100-Style Guild distinguishes no race, profession, or level. One only needs to agree with the guild's spirit of no deception, no abuse, no evil to join. The resources Guild Master Gon obtained from every monster subjugation were distributed fairly to all members, helping everyone grow. Because of this, the 100-Style Guild became famous for generosity and unity, rapidly rising to become one of the 8 great guilds. Also, because the 100-Style Guild grew faster and faster, it was rumored to have incurred the suspicion of the church. 2 years ago, Guildmaster Gon told them he was going to the swamp forest for a mission, and there had been no news since. Losing the Guildmaster's protection, over these 2 years, members have been poached or scattered. The once glorious 100-style guild had become precarious. The Guildmaster recognized Carter's talent, which is why he formed this squad to come find news of Guildmaster Gon. But in the end, only Nia and Cole had responded to him, so he was thankful to them. Nia told him not to worry, saying that if Gon hadn't founded the guild, someone with a niche profession like hers could not have become an adventurer after all. But Cole said that for someone like her, who could control intermediate magical beasts, tons of guilds would be fighting over her. So if something happened to Gon, she did not need to worry about her next home. Nia told him to shut his mouth and go to sleep, with Cole asking her to pretend like he hadn't said anything. Meanwhile, Slimy was trying to eavesdrop on them, but he wasn't able to hear anything clearly. Gathering intelligence on the worldview from the side of humans was very important, so he tried extending his body to act like a receiver, sending over a piece of himself towards the hunters. However, Cole immediately noticed that there was a monster there, stabbing Slimy's extended body with an ice spike. The system informed him that the frost effect was super effective and his speed had been reduced by 90%, making Slimy panic. Cole told the party members not to worry, as he had handled it, but they were already on alert, searching for the monster. They then found the slime that had been impaled on the ice spike. The steelback started sniffing it, biting off the slime from the ice. Slimy panicked as the boar started slurping his body like a noodle, sucking him towards its mouth where it could eat him, making it an instant game over. But Nia told him not to eat it, saying that they must not kill indiscriminately. The slime was just a passing small monster, so it was no threat, asking the steelback to let go of it. The steelbackle spat out Slimy, who landed in Nia's hand. She felt like she had seen it before, as there was a familiar feeling. Asking Slimy if it wanted to form a monster contract with her. Slimy felt like he had met a real angel, finally getting to experience the bonds of isekai, as he happily agreed, but Carter told her to stop messing around, as they still had to find the way out tomorrow. So now was not the time to collect monsters, telling her not to waste mana on a low-level monster like a slime, which offended Slimy. Nia then let him go, as Slimy realized that they did not seem to hear him speak. Suddenly, an idea came to his mind as he started extending his body. The hunters were surprised to see this, as Slimy formed the word hello with his body, thinking that they must be surprised to see an intelligent life form like him. But they thought that he was excreting waste, making Slimy realize that the people in the isekai did not speak Chinese. So he gave up on trying to communicate, as he would probably be treated as some weird monster and killed, thinking that it was better to leave. At least now he knew that there were humans in this world, just that there was also a language barrier.